You're all very welcome. Mila Margaret, Chocton Shelgaji are coming Phobal Ardclough, our meeting tonight. It's our monthly meeting. The monthly meetings of the Community Council have sort of fallen into disarray for various reasons, and the intention is, starting tonight, we will be reviving them, and the key date is that we do the first Tuesday in each month. We will, obviously, that's subject to change as to people's convenience. And tonight being it should have been last Tuesday, but was postponed for unavoidable circumstances. It's also an information meeting night, a very important information meeting night with the Corry Therapeutic Farm people joining us at 8:30. But we have some business to get through in the meantime. And the very first item on the agenda is the minutes and correspondence, but the minutes have not been delivered to me. The secretary of the outgoing secretary of the Community Council wasn't at the last meeting, and I did get a promise today that they would be delivered in time. So we'll have to go through the minutes of last month and this month together at the next monthly meeting, which will be in the December meeting. There is correspondence as well, which I'll bring back to. The most important for most people in the room, a lot of people are not really interested in the ordinary business, is a circular signed by 45 members of the Boston Road suggesting that tonight's meeting should not take place. I'll come to that after we've moved through, with your permission, moved through the other items on the agenda. Just updates. Another thing that has fallen through on the Community Council is the road reps. My inclination is that we should have reinstitute that. What I want people in the room to start thinking of who will serve these positions. If you look back over Ardclough Community Council over the last 20 years, the same 15, 20 people have been filling all the positions. I'd like to get a generational thing going, that the next generation gets involved, and the road reps is a way of doing it. It doesn't really mean that you have to turn up for meetings. People are slow to turn up to meetings, I know, but there will be things like newsletters to be developed, and also to keep an ear out in the community to the sort of issues that should be coming here before us as a community council. The areas of concern are the Boston Road, the Canal Bank, the Selbridge Road, Lishandra, Uachtarard, Pluxtown, Straffan Road, Wheatfield Estate, Whitechurch, and Williams Grove will be the new one. So we won't get, with your permission, I'm going to start asking people from those areas if they will fill the role as road rep. Is there sort of an agreement on that, and all contributions from the community through the various channels we have, which are email and WhatsApp and Facebook, and now we have Instagram as well. So any ideas, we really are short of people, and it would be nice to have the generational thing. Is everybody comfortable with that? Yeah, okay. And the second thing, to institute something else, which the Community Council hasn't done, and very few places have done, is to pick out areas of expertise in the community. We are dripping with great knowledge and great experience, and people in different walks of life. And I have circulated 15 areas that we'd like to see people getting involved in. Really, this is multifaceted. It's going to make us more relevant as a community council. Should it succeed, it'll also help greatly in our efforts in things like the Tidy Towns competition. I'd love to see, for instance, and just this is a random example, Ardclough's version of Greta Thunberg, somebody of that age group coming on board and telling us what should be done on sustainability. And I'd love to have a programme, be able to present a programme to a future meeting of Ardclough Community Council, that we have a target of being a zero COVID council by a certain date. So again, thinking caps on that, and we're looking for people in areas of expertise, things like the agri-food, animal welfare, biodiversity, business enterprise, care for the elderly, child welfare, crime, big issue, endangered species, wildlife, fisheries, heritage, social inclusion, sustainability and zero carbon, tidy towns as a category in itself, water and wastewater infrastructure, and youth culture. The idea would be these would not be officers of the council, these would be people that would be our watching guides to bring things to our attention as we evolve as a council to become quite relevant in the today's world. We're also we've sort of activating social media. Social media, we have had a presence since the council was founded, 2008. It basically was the messages went out by email, and the email list is already out of date, and we will be updating that. And Phoebe, do you want to update us on what's been happening in terms of what you've been setting up?
Yeah, so we have.
And Phoebe's our PRO, for those who don't know her. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Phoebe. We have a Twitter account, and we have an Instagram account, and we have a Facebook account at the moment. And if anyone knows anything else that people are using or that they like to get information on, you could let me know. The other thing we have is that we've had a number of people request that we would live stream the meeting. And so I'm set up to live stream now, but I think Eoghan wanted to make sure that everyone in the room was comfortable before we did it.
Live streaming of meetings, what do people feel? Any contributions here? Little hand up. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so we're happy for if I go ahead. It's facing towards Eoghan anyway.
I'll tell you why. There are people, and it's a demographic thing as well. There are people who cannot get to meetings. There are people for whom it's a big deal. It's getting babysitters. And we have requests from people who are effectively housebound through caring obligations. And it would be fantastic if if it was available. It also gives more transparency to our council, that all decisions arrived at by the council are relevant to the community, and it gives the people who are sitting at home an opportunity to communicate with the council officers, of whom there are 6. For those who are not aware, Corry, I'm the chair, the vice chair is Raymond King, Phoebe O'Leary is the PRO. We've our secretary, Corry Mansfield, is unavoidably absent today. Our assistant secretary, or deputy secretary, is here tonight, Elaine Dunn. And they're and Brian Walsh, of course, the treasurer. They're the officers of the council. So we are ready. Everybody comfortable with a live stream of the meeting going out? And the initial live stream will be going out on Facebook Live, and we can publicise that channel almost immediately if we're ready to go. And if everybody's comfortable with that, we'll go ahead with that. Very silent room, we're all happy. Okay, further update. Yeah.
That was going to take place.
Sorry?
Are people aware that's going to take place? Or what's the point?
No, it can be. They can be alerted. We couldn't do it during advance of the meeting without the agreement of the people who are here tonight.
I'm just conscious. Are you expecting many people to participate?
No, we're not initially. I mean, if you looked at what Ardclough Mass is now live streamed, and I think 6 people looked at it last week, we're not going to get the big numbers. The fact it's available is really important, and we can immediately.
I think it's a very good idea. I think it should.
That's good. Yeah.
I think it should be communicated though to the community.
We didn't have the opportunity, Ger, to do so in advance on the night, but the part of what we're trying to do with the community council is have it that it's predictable, that the meetings are coming on a predictable night, and you're very welcome. They're on a particular night, and people will be able to tune in. And now everything's online. The Oireachtas committees, the Dáil, everything's online. If people are comfortable with that,
it makes absolute sense. I was just curious as to, it hasn't been pre-advised to say that we're going to discuss it this evening, and that obviously there was an opportunity for it to arise.
Yeah, it's going to be there. We can publicise it immediately for people who are at home. Christmas lights. The grant for Christmas lights has been applied for. Supplier has been identified as the same supplier as is supplying the Selbridge Christmas lights. The grant hasn't come through yet. We do have a set of lights that we own from last year, solar powered, and we're very happy. We'll be putting those back up. The idea will be that we will likely have our Christmas lights in action or up on the 21st of November, and that the switch on then can be decided. I think traditionally the switch on was first Friday. Would that be fair? Sorry?
8th of December.
Yes, 8th of December. So once our lights are up, we can decide when to. And we've had a little ceremony in the past with the choir and the mulled wine and things like that. It'd be lovely to reactivate that. What's up next is the Christmas video. Elaine, do you want to give us a picture of what's happening Christmas video-wise?
Yeah, so I gathered around 50 children together, and I have pre-recorded them in piece of edit, and then that will be broadcast out around Christmas time.
And there's great work going on with that. We did one last year, and we did a St. Patrick's Day one, which were hugely successful. Tidy Towns, you'll probably have seen that the report came out. We increased our score. We are up to the highest in the history of Ardclough. The scoring system changes a little bit every year, so we're not quite at the percentage peak we hit in 2013. We're not far off it. We hit 72%. We're down to 70%. We skipped back about 4 places in Kildare, which is a little bit disappointing, but we're down to 11th from 7th. It's 11th in Kildare is very good, but imagine if we'd gone up 4 places, we'd be within sight of the Bown Or and what Kill are achieving and things like that. Our strong, really, really strong category has been community planning and involvement, and other areas like our streetscape and our green spaces and our nature and biodiversity. We're all scoring nicely, and then I'd love to get the scores up higher in each of the areas. And the one area that we are low on is sustainability. The full category is sustainability, doing more with less. 19 out of 50. It's not. It's pulled down our overall score. It would be lovely to get a bit of momentum going in that. And one of the ways I see of doing that is to get a group of people, younger people, TY people. We're going to do reach out to TY people and see what we can do in bringing up our sustainability. But well done, a tremendous performance by everybody who was involved in the Tidy Towns. We put 57 projects together, and it was very, very strong in the community, and thanks to everybody who got involved. Huge work, and it's people like Tom doing the Uachtarán graveyard. The graveyard can be counted. You can pick outlying areas to be part of your Tidy Towns entry, and we are certainly being very, very happy to do that. Also, huge congratulations to Wheatfield Estate. Anne McNamara won the COVID Hero, Kiva Buckle, the Youth Endeavour, and Colette and Liam Kerwin, highly commended for the best kept garden. We had great, they have a long record of winning awards, and that was another great achievement for Ardclough. Next thing is a suggestion of Raymond King, a welcome letter for residents of Williams Grove. I think 15 families have moved in. I'm not sure completely on that. Some people might be more up to date on it. But the idea would be a welcome letter from the Community Council, and we will say this is what Ardclough is about. People comfortable with that? People happy with that? Yeah, all nods all round. And I've written about the community development dividend land to Kildare County Council. This is related to Williams Grove. There were 3 acres to be allocated. The initial thought was that it would be as a graveyard. There was soil tests done, and the soil test showed up that it was unsuitable as a graveyard. But what is happening, the community dividend land, is still not clear, and I've written for some sort of direction on that, and I think that's something that we will be returning to. We have 3 trustees appointed, including members of the community, but there's been no real transparency as to what happened with that, and whether the community dividend land allocation requirement is even still intact after the graveyard tests were done. Does anybody have any update on that or any thoughts on that?
Chairman, where is this parcel of land?
It's behind the church. It was part of the the access seemed to be through the church.
EGA is applying for it.
The GA is interested, yeah,
And
fantastic.
was there any other sites looked at?
In terms of what, PJ?
In relation to the dividend land?
That was the allocated land. There wasn't a process where there was a choice offered.
This is coming from the planning permission that was built for.
That's a part of the planning permission. I've written for further explanation, something that we have to be vigilant about, because the last thing we need is to discover that community dividend land is no longer available to the community in any form. And there are different interests, as Larry says, sporting groups are interested. The important thing is it's secured for the community and doesn't drift away on us. The next item I want to update on is the proposed monthly meeting schedule. It's based largely on the availability of the village centre on the second Tuesday of every month, and that's at our AGM. That was put forward, not as a binding decision, as obviously we had to postpone last Tuesday's meeting today. I'll also be proposing here that it has been pointed out that December the 8th coincides with the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. So we do have the freedom to bring that forward to December the 7th. So everybody happy with the date of the next meeting being December the 7th? And the decision that's overriding here from the AGM is that we decided on two informations. The meeting decided this, not the chair, by the way, because it has been alleged. But the meeting decided that there would be two information meetings, one relating to Corry Farm here tonight, and the second would relate to the Greenway, the Grand Canal Greenway, and that will take place after the December the 7th meeting. Tonight I will be proposing that we continue the tradition of information meetings, and that we move information meetings into the January and February. We add information meetings and addresses to the January 11th and February the 15th meetings. And I think that, from a little rain check, that the huge issue, the big issues of the community need to be revisited. We haven't been near crime, for instance, for nearly 2 years or 3 years, and a lot has changed, not so much from the crime side, but that the technology that's available in fighting in surveillance and things like that has changed massively. So, with your permission, the future meetings of the monthly meetings of the Community Council, again with that goal of making ourselves relevant to the community, and it will be that information meetings will become the norm. I need to...
Why did the committee decide to have this information meeting now in relation to the Corry farm development?
Because it was... the discussion at the meeting, and there are members of the Community Council here who were at the meeting. The discussion it addressed 2 or 3 issues. Should a meeting be held, and should it be held? Was it expedient to hold it soon? And there were the 2 decisions made by the AGM.
And the committee, according to printed documents, were represented in meetings prior to this, with the proposals of this.
I'll go to one more issue before I come back to that, PJ, because this is I know I'm completely aware. That's why most people are here tonight, and we do need to. I just want to get through an updated, a procedural issue, which is the updated condolences, which were passed at the AGM, and there were some omissions from it. And it's an AGM thing, and I really shouldn't wait to the next AGM, so I will put that through now. The updated condolences are to Al Bates, to Claire Brennan, Dick Buggy, brother of John, to Marie Carberry, to Anne Cross, Moira Cullen, Michael Eacock, Phyllis Finneran, Mary Harris, Marie Hill, Micheál Johnson, Pauline Johnson, Gloria Lynham, Christy Maughan, Jim McAuliffe, Evelyn McMahon, Ciara Maguire, Dan Malloy, John Malloy, Phyllis Moore, Barry O'Connor, Elva O'Neill, Mary O'Sullivan, Basil Phipps and PJ Spain. These are identifying people from the community who've died since February 2020. And is everybody comfortable with the minutes being amended of the AGM to include the people who were admitted? And is there any other omissions? We have a larger group of people here tonight. Right, I'll come on to the AOB and we'll come back to your point, PJ. You're asking why the meeting is taking place now. The point, I'm not going to revisit the debate at the AGM, but I'm going to summarise it. The AGM decided that the Corry Farm issue is very large, it's engaging the community, and that an information meeting was needed to open a line of communication and to look for this clarification on the sort of issues which were being raised within the community. Now, subsequent to that, I received a circular signed by 45 people claiming, saying that the meeting should not take place. And the decision, the circular, would people like me to read out the circular?
No, we'll now take it that it's been added to the record of the meeting. That's one thing. Secondly, a bit like your proposed information evening on the Grand Canal Greenway, it's either premature or too late, generally too late. In one case, because the submissions for planning ceased to be accepted on a particular date. A request for further information has been put out, and we have no details yet of the further information submissions. So there is little point in us talking to anybody until we actually see what the further information requests produce. And the onus is on Corry Farm to approach, on the basis of the submission or the further information request, the onus is very much on the promoters of Corry Farm to approach certain specific local landowners, because they need to engage with those specifically for certain purposes, especially in relation to boundary treatments, screening, passing points, and traffic management. And we have not had one contact. I'll speak on my own behalf, and I'll speak on behalf of one other person who is the largest single boundary with Corry Farm. And we have not had one contact from those people. Now, we have objected, we will continue to object, and we will take it through on Board Finola, and we will take it onwards after that if necessary. But we are in a very unhappy state of mind over the entire affair. As are other people. This is a matter of great significance. It's affecting the largest single asset most people here have. It's affecting businesses, it's affecting livelihoods, and, as I say, personal assets. So the onus is very much on them to engage, but not to engage in a group speak, not to engage in a community engagement forum. They need to engage specifically and individually with people in a formalised manner. And everyone is entitled to that.
Okay. Thanks, Eoghan. Any more contributions from the floor?
I'd like to understand the point that was raised around the representation of other members of the community whose planning permission has been rejected. ACC have not intervened in that. Why you feel it's, or why the council feel it's valid to do that now against the wishes of the community or the people who are here.
Anybody else in?
I think that one of the main
PJ.
issues here is the way that prior consultation was carried out with or identified as key members of the community and key members of the Ardclough Community Council in relation to this development prior to this open day being held. And then subsequently in the correspondence presented to the council, this issue is presented in a very favourable light from the developer's viewpoint, which obviously emanated from the people they met. Now the question is this: we don't know who they met. council at that stage did not declare to anyone that they were meeting him. No one knows who met him, only the individuals concerned. So it would be important to know, therefore, from the community council perspective, who were the individuals that were consulted by the CEO himself stated that he met people and that he was favorably received, and that may be the case. Individuals are entitled to have their own opinion and to agree or otherwise with the project, but they cannot be seen to talk on behalf of the majority in the community. And subsequently, in the correspondence presented to the Dare County Council, that is what has happened. And if anyone cares to read that correspondence in the summary documentation, the whole, and I'm not saying I'm for or against, I'm just making an issue that it presents the case as if the council who represent the community here are in favour of this. Now, as has been stated already, there may be some, there may be not. There is definitely some that are not. And we get back to the old issue, which has been raised in relation to planning commission. I served on this council under the late Pat Garrity some years ago, and one of the things that was very strong in the agenda at that point in time was the community council did not engage in matters pertaining to planning in the area because of the issue of local involvement and people therefore being decided and so on. So that therefore the issue as regards this meeting and Corry Farm is that this council who represents us supposedly indicated, better or for worse, whether they intended to do or not, that there was a positive feeling in the community for this development. And that may be the case with individuals, or a number of individuals, as the case may be. But they were not entitled to make that statement on behalf of the community without consulting them. And no consultation took place. And therefore, if those people are prepared now, if they're here, to stand up and identify themselves and declare what they said or what they didn't say to the Chief Executive Officer, I think it would be useful for the gathering.
Right, we're coming to the end of the Community Council meeting allocated time, but is there anybody else from the floor who wants to come in on the
I think it's important though,
on that particular, just on that particular issue?
Well, 2 points have been raised from the floor, so I think out of courtesy you should try and address those, because I think it's you know, the challenge is there's perceived bias, unfortunately, and has arisen for whatever reasons, and people obviously have raised valid concerns, and we continuously seems to be ignored. And so, and the further question obviously is, when you received that letter, what did you do when you received that letter?
What did I do when I received that letter?
Did you consult with the members of the committee? Was there a discussion at committee level to say, what should we do in response to the letter? Because again, we're in a situation where we don't know what's going on, there is no response, and that all puts everybody in a situation where, you know, there's questions being asked, understandably. So it's only fair to the people that they actually get questions answered. Community members.
You were sent that first email on the 8th of November. The second email was sent on the 11th of November. And a third email was sent to you on the 14th of November with no response from Ardclough Community Council to the email from the Ardclough residents, which is mighty poor. And that's why we had to gather here tonight. But we got nothing back from Ardclough Community Council. Can you give us a reason as to why there was no response whatsoever? Despite many requests through every avenue we could try and get to you. And looking for a response, we got none. Was that discussed with the rest of the Community Council?
Okay, anybody else?
Are you going to answer, Eoghan, or are you just going to just pass it off?
I'm getting everybody's opinion from the floor. Sorry, I shouldn't be
I think
engaging.
it's important, like, to answer the questions as they come along, because you know your response
Okay,
will generate another question, and it's not fair to kind of say, I'm just going to gather all the questions, there are 3 valid points.
Jar, you could have turned up at the AGM and you'd be a chair.
Do you know, the funny thing is, Owen, I would love to be at the AGM. Do you know what I mean? And I'd also love to know actually how many of the community were represented at the AGM and how much of the community knew there was an actual AGM taking place. Yeah? And this is part of the challenge. There isn't communication. In fairness to you, since you've come on board as chairperson,
Don't do in fairness.
the communication has increased and it's obviously very visible, right? And that is very plausible and it has to be counted on. But up to that point, unfortunately, there was many emails were sent to the Community Council. Many emails have been sent and no response. So we're in a situation where we seem to be continuing that train, and as a result, there are people here who kind of going asking questions. Well, is it actually Community Council? We do want it to be Community Council. We want to participate in it, but it can't be Community Council for some. It has to be Community Council for everybody. And that's what I thought a Community Council is about.
Okay, I'll go through the response. Tonight's meeting is the correct forum to raise those points. They have been raised, they will be discussed. I'm interested in all viewpoints on it. The emails that came were effectively anonymous. It's quite interesting to say that with something that has 45 names attached. But there is no Rooney, there is no Cathaoirleach. If there was an objection by Ardclough GAA to the constitution of the NACE team, it would come from a Rooney or a Cathaoirleach. So when you have an email arriving, it's my response was to bring it up at the meeting, which I have. And in fact, that's probably the only response open to me. I don't, as in my private life, in my ordinary life, respond to anonymous emails. Another very important thing about the email I read out is that very little of it is to do with Corry Farm. It's a personalised attack on me.
Well, excuse me. The reason, if you consider it a personalised attack, and it actually is mild compared to some of the personalised attacks that wanted to be said, is the fact that people were trying to make contact with you and get a response for weeks. Weeks! And what do we have now? We've Corry Farm coming here tonight in an interregnum period between the closing of submissions for an application and further information, so we don't have all the story. We have a Greenaway thing set up here for next one that has already been granted. We've all been fighting a rearguard action in relation to further plans from Kildare County Council.
It's not all the
plans, not the last lot, the next lot.
It's
which
not
will probably include your 3 acres as a car park, by the way, because they have their eyes on it.
So I actually have to challenge your point about the fact that you get anonymous communication. We sent our family a personal communication to the previous chair asking for information about what engagement was taking place and who was representing the community. We didn't get any response. So it's not about a personal attack on Eoghan Corry. It's about.
It actually is. There are 9 points in that.
Let me finish the point.
Sorry, Jared.
Yeah.
You've spoken a lot now.
Right?
Remember, I've given you all this, and we are moving. I did promise we'd have everyone up by 9:15.
You're not answering our questions, unfortunately.
I'm about to.
Yeah,
by the
I
way.
know, but we want an open conversation. Trying obviously.
I'm very happy to hear everyone's point of view tonight. I want everyone going home happy. Okay.
We obviously tried to engage, yes, as community members, okay, and we got no response. And as a result, whether it's an anonymous email or not, there's 45 signatures on a communication that you received. They're all residents of the area. They're all, I don't know what percentage of the community it is, you will know yourself, okay? If I was the chairperson of a community council and I received communication that covered, what, 30% of the of the residents of the area, or whatever, in the direct area of impacted, right? That's a matter then I would have to raise with my committee members, and I would have to discuss it with them and say, do we have a response on this, and we've at least at a minimum acknowledged it. But to continue to push these communications under the table and ignore the fact that there's obviously members of the community who want to engage and have a conversation, And we don't seem to be able to do that in a constructive fashion. And we want to have it in a constructive fashion. We want to be engaged, but the facts speak for themselves. There have been no communication from Ardclough Community Council to residents around this topic. The first communication we get is there's going to be an information meeting in the middle of a planning permission process. So it just doesn't stack up. It just doesn't stack up. I know you've communicated to me that you personally have said at a personal level you are supporting the project. You're fully entitled to do that. But you have to, as chair, maintain independence. And unfortunately, the reason why probably people are a bit, obviously, disgruntled or, disappointed is that seems to have disappeared. And we shouldn't be in that position, though.
Well, I want to publicly reject the charge of partiality on behalf of myself and my fellow officers.
No,
And publicly, I'm going to reject that now. Jerry, you've spoken for a lot. I am still waiting to respond. You're telling me to answer questions,
Sure.
and as a chair, I'm letting you continue to make your point. And you're the 9-point email, 3 of them are personal attacks on the chair, 4 of them are attacks on Ardclough Community Council. So what is behind this? I mean, where is it seems that the focus of the anger of Boston Hill has been directed at members of Community Council, officers of Community Council, and myself in particular. There's another very important thing about it. It is defamatory. And it has been circulated to public representatives. So if you are in the business...
You're making an allegation that's likely to lead to men in wigs in 24 hours. If you want to say it's defamatory, say so. Close your meeting.
I've been advised it's defamatory.
I'll go to court.
But it once in the cut and trust of a local event, that's fine. But it was circulated to public representatives.
You put yourself out there. They are our public.
I didn't put myself anywhere.
We
Adrian.
employ them equally to you.
I didn't put myself out there. I am chair of a council which decided at its AGM to have 2 information meetings. And the result of being chair of the council is this 9-point email, 3 of which are personal attacks on me.
Well, you haven't probably seen the end of it yet, because there is such disappointment that obviously the next stage here is to go and raise enough people to sign a letter to see if we can get an extraordinary general meeting. Because that looks like the next way to go.
Okay.
Okay? I will propose to the council tonight that we set in train to see if we can code an extraordinary.
And do you want to do that now? Do you want to put your proposal to the floor now?
I do.
Yes. Okay, have we a seconder for that?
Sorry, Eoghan. I came to the AGM last week, or whenever it was, because I wanted to hear firsthand whatever information was circulating at the time in relation to the day plan. I also attended the open day. Now, I came to this meeting because I basically want to hear the questions that could be put to the representatives of that farm. And that's why I'm here, and I would like that to happen because that was what was planned.
I second the motion.
Second the motion. We want to have a vote on the motion? All in favour of the motion that is set in train the removal of the chair of Community Council? Extraordinary general meeting, yeah. Yeah, okay. All in favour? Can we have a teller, Phoebe and Elaine? All in favour? Okay, 9. All against? On the 10.
Again?
How many? We'll have to recount that. Okay, We may have to set up a formal count on this. Does anyone have paper and stuff like that too? Yeah, okay, ready to. Okay, will we move on a formal division on this?
I will take the time to set up your formal.
Okay, we'll move on. I respond to the points in the meeting. It's precisely, why is the on the 9 points? And I'll take the second point. The first attack, setting out the formal, is a personal attack on me. But the second point you make is that the meeting is untimely because of the planning process. And I'll use that. I will use that. I would certainly be running with that for the second part of our meeting when we have our information. But it's precisely because we have such strong feelings in the community that the information meeting is taking place tonight. And that was the discussion. There were people who were at the AGM last week, and that was the discussion. It was precisely because of that it's taking place now. Now, any development which has a direct relevance to our community at large is worthy of discussion. We're not engaging the plan. We can't engage in the planning process. We can't set up a parallel planning consultation. What PJ referred to is sacrosanct to the council. We don't get involved in planning. We didn't get involved in Williams Grove. But when issues arose, like breaches of planning permission, that's when we move in, and that's when we get involved.
So we're not at that stage in the moment, obviously.
And well, okay. What we're doing here is fighting for the cohesion of our community, and making what our Ardclough Community Council is doing is setting up an information process so that the divisions of the community can be tackled. Maybe we'll solve them, maybe we won't, but at least we tried. We've done something here tonight.
So why wasn't that done before the planning permission went in?
In fact, it was requested before the planning permission went in, Ger, and didn't take place for loads of reasons, which don't need any introduction to the group tonight. This meeting should probably have taken place earlier in the day. And once all of the problems that we're dealing with to do with this, and to do with nearly every issue, are because of what you've been talking about tonight, the communication, the line of communication not existing. The line of communication to Corry Farm not existing. The line of communication, you say, between the residents of the community council.
To Corry Farm, they responded to all our requests of information. We didn't get any response from Ardclough Community Council to any of the requests prior to the planning permission going in.
Well, I'm not sure what...
I don't know if that highlights something, Eoghan, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what your requests were, so I can't actually...
It doesn't matter.
And
There was no acknowledgement. For you to say that, then therefore it's important we have a meeting. I appreciate it was important we have a meeting. But unfortunately, we're now in a situation where we're midway through a planning process. And the appropriateness of that, considering that at this point in time, as you say, with Williams Grove, if it was over issues, it would have happened afterwards, when planning was granted. Yes, that was fine. And that's when the topics would have been discussed. But we're in the middle of a process where it's perceived we haven't had a response from our Ardclough Community Council to valid requests for information as an individual and a member of the community. I haven't had those. We didn't get those responses.
Just on a point of information, Eoghan, and this is important for the meeting. The opinion as presented by the proprietors of this development more or less expressed the view, and it is a definite view, that the community in Ardclough were pro this development. Even so far as saying they were very helpful in coming forward and suggesting people who might assist in construction and sidewalks and art and craft and everything you could name. So in other words, that whole presentation, if we want to read it, if we want to read it on the planning commission, it's a summary documentation, it's 4 or 5 pages, and it's very much built around the prior meetings that were held with the representatives of this community. And I don't know whether they spoke on behalf or meant to speak on behalf of this community or not, but they were taken as speaking on behalf of the community. And their voices then were reflected. And they were also reflected at the meeting in Corry Farm on the 19th of July when I was present. I asked the same questions and I got the same answers, that the community had discussed this and they were in favour, and they had asked all these questions about safeguarding the environment and maintaining the entrance, all those lovely topics that everyone wants to keep. So really, that is the issue. We're going back to there, and going on then to tonight and the meeting that's to be held, this is seen by the community as a continuation of that support. Whether it's valid or otherwise, that is the perception. And that has been created by the Ardclough Community Council members, the members who met the proposers, Mr. McKeown or whoever else, way back last July, because they were quoted both in paper and verbally. And really, that is the issue. And that's the issue why you were on the mat tonight. And that's the issue why there's a split, or a perceived split in the community, which shouldn't be. But you cannot perceive to have members of the community in public forums making statements as if they represented the whole community when they haven't got a mandate for it. And that is what's happened. And the Ardclough Community Council are to blame for that.
I'm going to bring this section of the meeting to a close by saying that's not what happened. It's irrelevant. The meeting here was set up.
Excuse me, Eoghan, that is not irrelevant. For you to make that point after giving all the facts and putting the facts on the table, and when we see the document that's been submitted, it is not relevant.
Perception is not we can't control perception. You know that.
So
in every aspect of life.
When we say we can't control perception, we can't control the fact that you didn't respond, Ardclough Community Council, to the community members when they asked who were the
I
members.
responded tonight, Chair, which is the correct forum, by the way. This is the correct forum.
Yeah,
remember that.
But again, you're telling me it's perception. It's not perception. It's pure fact. We're dealing with fact.
Sorry, can I just ask you a question? Where are the facts coming from? I've worked in construction since 1978. I have never seen a developer of any development whatsoever not write in a planning application that the local community were supporting. So to assume because a developer said that Eoghan or anybody else actually said it to them is naive in the experience.
I think the challenge...
Wait a minute, you've spoken for a long time.
Okay.
Every property developer says that the local community is 100% supportive of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everybody says that. There's a stupid property developer that wouldn't say it. So to suggest that the committee did something just because the developer said that in his application is not factually correct.
So what we do know on the day of the meeting of the presentation, there was an invitation to members of the community.
Chair, you've taken more than 40% of the time.
I'm challenged on a situation whereby people are saying that the fact that I have submitted requests to the community council and I didn't get a response is perception. Okay, and I have to just make sure for the record.
Okay, Phoebe, come on in here.
I just wanted to say that just in case people weren't aware, that Eoghan has only been the chairperson and on the committee for the past 5 weeks. And for the past 6 years, we've had an awful lot of difficulty fielding a committee, a full committee with a treasurer, a secretary and a chairperson for various reasons. So there has been a lot of change of hands in terms of the email addresses, in terms of getting access to the social media, in terms of who's contactable and when. And there's been a lot of people who've been standing in for somebody while they were sick or standing out for somebody. So I appreciate that it can be very frustrating, but everybody on the committee of Ardclough Community Council is a volunteer, and we do try our best to get back to everybody. And it's only in the last month, we still don't have a dedicated email address. Like, we'll be honest and put our hands up, that's how far behind we are. But we are trying. So it's not that anybody is personally ignoring anybody's correspondence. We love seeing people involved.
And if you want a response, put your name on it. Can we go procedurally go to the business of the EGM? And
Just before you do that,
yeah, sorry. No.
To be fair, and in defence of the chairman, I don't necessarily agree with him, but in defence of the chairman, his role is to implement what was agreed at the AGM. That's what he's supposed to do. At the AGM, and I wasn't at it, okay, a decision was made to have an information meeting with Corry. And our chairman has done exactly what he was supposed to do, was to organise that meeting, because the AGM agreed to have that meeting. If somebody wants to put a motion to the floor to suggest you shouldn't have that meeting, I'd be more than happy to discuss that. But you can't attack the chairman because he did what he was asked to do at the AGM.
That's a fair point.
That's his job. That's his job.
Okay, we have an EGM.
Maybe we do have that motion then, no? right? Because
we have an EGM motion in front of the floor which has been proposed and seconded.
Do we also consider that other motion, right? Because as you correctly say, that's the one that's actually causing challenge for individuals.
Well,
right?
I don't think we can stop an information meeting for which we brought people here tonight.
I don't understand why. If we're
The EGM is for us, you know, the EGM is to call an EGM which will be held at a future date. We're not calling off a meeting in mid-meeting.
But I suppose if a members wanted to put a second motion to the floor, could that be done?
Well, the AGM has decided. We're not going to start reversing AGM decisions. There's no decision on an EGM from hanging over from the AGM.
And
Look,
to be fair, Paul, no, because you don't have to go to the meeting in Kerry Farm. You can get up and walk out. You don't have to. There are people there.
Okay, procedurally, we're running over time for the ACC end of the meeting.
I think it's just the way it's been, the communication
Ger-
has been handled. It's been very inadequate.
Okay.
And that's what
Vote on. Can we do it? What do our two tellers think? Is there a very close division on this? Will we get people to stand up? Is that?
Yeah, I think standing up.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, for the EGM, stand up. Okay. And our tellers are in charge here, and do consult tellers on what your number is. And we have 3 over here. Okay, and against the EGM? Not in support of the EGM, stand up. So it's 1916. What an appropriate for a revolution, for what a appropriate score. So I'm proposing from the chair here that the EGM goes ahead on December the 7th, which was the designated date for the next monthly meeting. Are people happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, December. Chair, Jerry.
What's the purpose of the EGM?
You can pass the proposal.
Proposer of the AGM, Aidan.
We will produce an agenda for an EGM because there'll be motions.
But the purpose of it,
The purpose of the EGM is to discuss where the council has managed to get itself now, Jerry. Sorry? Where the council has managed to get itself now, the position it's managed to put itself in, and what we want to do. So we will produce a suggested agenda. We call the EGM, we're entitled to produce an agenda.
It's quite interesting, Aidan, that you're not the chair. I'm actually the chair who will be setting up the agenda. So, I mean, it does look like the 1916 takeover has completely gone to people's head.
Send you a draft agenda, or we will produce a list of motions for your agenda.
Okay, I'm very happy to take motions, but
We will send you motions and give us 7 days.
I love the notion that you're producing. You're now chair of Community Council.
You're likely to produce the agenda if we give you the motions. If you want to know what the EGM is for, we will give you some motions for your EGM.
Okay, thank you very much for
7
this.
days.
And that's it, December the 7th. Now we're moving on to the information section. I will also remind people that we have representatives of the Corry Farm here to answer questions. This does not indicate endorsement of the Corry Farm project on behalf of the Ardclough Community Council, or indeed objection to the Corry Farm proposal by the Ardclough Community Council. The meeting is here purely to facilitate information. There were serious questions raised by the Boston Road residents and by other members of the council throughout the community, or to other members of the community throughout the community. So we are very happy to welcome representatives of the Corry Farm project. Are they already in the room? Yes, indeed. Gentlemen, I'm going to bring you up to the top table if you're comfortable sitting up here, given the mood of the room. I want to close the meeting by saying it's been a very difficult 5 weeks. Personally, and on behalf of my colleagues, it's not acceptable for a community, for a female officer of the Community Council to be told, we will remember who the officers of the council were. It's not acceptable for the level of personal, where I was told I'd be ostracised, boycotted, mentions of backhanders, back deals were done. And the family car was vandalised. Now, somebody who does that is designed to create a situation where you ask yourself, is it right to put yourself in a voluntary capacity and be here for 5 weeks and subject yourself to that? And they did create that debate in our house, in our household. And I decided to go ahead with this meeting and to bring out into the open all the anger or all the feelings and the strength of feeling that we saw here tonight. We saw a little bit of it from the floor tonight. And, you know, let's get on. Let's get this line of communication. We're not here to provide any solutions tonight. We're here to actually open the line of communication. And maybe we're not part of the planning process. We're not parallel to the planning process. The planning process is going through head anyway. What the Community Council did tonight was brought people into a room and brought the people who have put in the planning permit, not to interfere with it or endorse it or to say we're one side or to say the other, but to open a line of communication, because let's say the planning permission doesn't succeed, fine. If it does succeed, we need those lines of communication. And as a council, that's what we did tonight. And I'd like to think that we've achieved something, and that I personally have achieved something with that. In view of the vote earlier on, the 1916 revolution, I made the decision to Iri Amach Osanifig immediately, with immediate effect. So I'm resigning with immediate effect. Raymond King will chair the meeting, the EGM, to elect a new chair on December the 7th. Thank you for your attention. Thank you to the Corry Farm people. And thank you for everything, the people who've supported me over the last 5 weeks. And to my fellow officers who went through a sustained, because across every platform, every time you switched on a phone, every time you turned on an email, every time you went on social media, it was coming at you, and it was coming at a lot of us. We don't get paid for this. In fact, there were so few at the AGM, the job of chair was passed around, including to a Boston Road resident, before I took it. Thank you very much for your attention, thank you for the meeting, and thank you to the Corry Farm people.